Hello friends, welcome to CEC live lectures. Dear friends, today in political science, we are going to talk about Neo Realism and theory of international relations. In the first half of the lecture, we will discuss about Joseph Greco and Robert Gilpin's Neo Realism, as well as John Mearsheimer's and Robert Jarvis' offensive defensive realism. To discuss this topic, we have with us our subject expert Dr. Sujit Thakur. Dr. Thakur is assistant professor in Department of Political Science in the Alsing College, University of Delhi. Without further ado, I would like to welcome sir to our studios and request him to start the lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Amit. Like in the previous classes, yesterday we have discussed about the different varieties of the Neo Realism. In that, we have discussed the Kenneth Walls, the concept of structured realism, where we have given the three main dimensions, where the Kenneth Walls have given the emphasis on number one, that ordering principles of the systems, number two, the character of the units of the system, and third, distribution of the capabilities. On that basis, he tried to analyze the whole concept of the Neo Realism. When he is talking about the ordering principles, he said, see, in the analytical systems, every state has to perform according to its ability. And in the second, when he talked about the character of the units, where he said, see, every state has to perform the same task, whether it's a small and or bigger. And third thing, he started to try to tell us, see, every state has a different kind of capabilities according to their resources. So, on this basis, we would like to analyze the whole concept of the Neo Realism within the Kenneth Walls perspectives. But now today we are going to discuss the two more ideas, especially one by the Joseph Greco and the Robert Gilpin, absolute gains, the relative gains, and the second one is the offensive and defensive realism by the John Mearsheimer and the Robert Jarvis. First of all, we are going to discuss about the Joseph Greco's concept of the relative gains and the Robert Gilpin's concept of the absolute gains, and Joseph Greco's absolute and relative gains. Here, we are going to focus on what Joseph Greco tried to say about the Neo Realism. He said that Greco focused on the concept of relative and absolute gains. Means, whenever he started discussing about the Neo Realism, he said, see, every state is more concerned about both the things, relative and absolute gains. When he said relative and absolute gains, he said, see, states are interested in increasing their power and influence, and thus will cooperate with other states or actors in the system to increase capabilities. This aligns with other actors being termed by Greco as an absolute gain in the international politics. When he tried to explain it, what is the absolute gains, he said, see, whenever the state interact with the other states, they try to maximize their power, their strength in the international politics. For example, we can understand in the Cold War era times, when America and the USSR both try to somehow assess their influence in the South Asian regions or in the Latin American regions and the African regions. Why? They try to influence these states because the Americans wanted to increase their influence through the Marshall Plan, the European states. Other side, the Soviet Union wanted to increase its influence in the Eastern Europe through providing all kind of economic and other assistance by forming the Comecon. And in the Military Alliance, they also formed the NATO by the Americans and by the Russians. First, they formed the Warsaw Pact. Through both these groups, they try to influence the other countries, especially the newly emerging countries, to come in their blocks. Why? Because they want to increase their powers. They want to increase their influences. Why they want to increase their influences? Because they want to increase their influences because they try to dominate on the world politics. They want more and more security to counter their traditional enemies. So here, the Greco tried to say it. You see, once the state try to increase their capability through cooperating with other state, it means they try to increase their influence just to get the dominance in the world politics, and that they consider as the absolute gains. In the second perspective, Greco claims that states are also concerned with how much power and influence other states might achieve in any cooperative endeavor. This influence gained by other states in any cooperative endeavor is being termed by Greco as relative gains in international politics. Now, the earlier we understood what Girko tried to understand about the absolute gains. Here he tried to explain it what is the relative gains. Here he said, see, one side state definitely want to have a cooperation with other state to increase its influence, but on the other side, states are also equally involved to see whether in this cooperative endeavor, whether the other states are getting more or whether their power is increasing more than their power. So they are also thinking about the relative gains of the states. Here we can easily understand what is the difference between the absolute gains and the relative gains. New liberals always say, see, if the states are contained with their own security maximizers, then they don't want to disturb the other states. But here, Girko's concept on realism says, see, one side states are ready to cooperate with the other states to increase their influences, but at the same time they are equally concerned whether their cooperations with the other states would whether increase their influence more than the country who are trying to pursue its interest. So they are more concerned about it. Here there is a basic difference between the new liberals and Neo Realists, where one is contained with their security maximizer. If they think their security is capable to defend their national interest or their territorial integrity, they are less bothered about what the other states are doing. But in the New Realist, they are telling if they are going for the cooperative endeavor, they are more concerned about the other states, whether they are getting more benefit in the cooperative endeavor or they are getting less benefit than what the other states are pursuing the cooperative endeavors. And the second point here, the Robert Gilpin is the international political economic scholars, and he also talked about the absolute gains formula in the Neo Realism concept, because after the Second World War, especially after 1971, when the Americans declined, Americans' economic power declined, he started talking about, the day America started declining, we have witnessed there is some kind of disstability in the world politics, especially in the economic structures. There was a stagflation, and then there was always fluctuations of the currency. So they said, it's very essential for the world economic structures that some dominant power would regulate the world economy, rather than there are a number of stakeholders which claim and which counterclaim, and there will be instability in the world politics. So they said, if there is a hegemon kind of world politics, if there is some state would so dominating in the world politics that would regulate the world economy, that would be more beneficial for the world politics. कहने का तात्पर्य यह हुआ कि यदि हम जब अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में जो दूसरा नव्य यथार्थवाद का सिद्धांत है, विशेषकर रॉबर्ट गिल्पिन और जोसेफ गिरको के द्वारा जो दिया गया था, उसमें जोसेफ गिरको दो तरह की बातें करते हैं। कहते हैं कि एब्सोल्यूट गेन की बात करते हैं, एक बात करते हैं रिलेटिव गेन की बात करते हैं। वो और एब्सोल्यूट गेन की बात करते हैं कि एक राज्य दूसरे राज्य से सहयोग करता है, और वह तब तक सहयोग करता है जब तक वो देखता है कि उस राज्य के राष्ट्रीय हित और उसका प्रभाव दूसरे राष्ट्रों के अपेक्षा अधिक बढ़ रहा है, या वह जो एडवर्सरी राष्ट्र हैं, या जो उसके शत्रु राष्ट्र हैं, या जो उसके प्रतिद्वंदी राष्ट्र हैं, उस राष्ट्र के प्रति उससे उसका प्रभाव वो प्रभाव उससे ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है यदि वो सहयोग कर रहा है। उदाहरण के तौर पर हम कोल्ड वार के टाइम का, शीत युद्ध के समय का को देख सकते हैं, जब अमेरिका और रूस दोनों राष्ट्र, विशेषकर जो नवोदित राष्ट्र जो उदित हो रहे थे, खास करके सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वार के बाद लैटिन अमेरिका में, एशिया में और अफ्रीका में, तो वहां पर हम देख रहे थे कि अमेरिका भी एक तरफ से कोशिश कर रहा था नए नए राष्ट्रों को अपने पक्ष में करने का, एक तरफ से रशिया भी अपनी तरफ कोशिश कर रहा था अपने पक्ष में करने का। दोनों विचारधाराओं के आधार पर करने की कोशिश कर रहा था। एक कर रहा था कि पूंजीवाद के आधार पर, एक कर रहा था कि आर्थिक सहायता के आधार पर, एक कर रहा था कि आधुनिक राष्ट्र राज्य व्यवस्था के आधार पर, दूसरा कर रहा था कि साम्राज्यवादी व्यवस्था से हटकर, एक नव उपनिवेशवादी सोच से हटकर एक मुक्त व्यवस्था के तहत आप सहयोग करें। इसमें मौलिक सोच दोनों राष्ट्रों के में यह थी कि दोनों राष्ट्र अपने प्रभाव को विस्तार करना चाहता था। एशिया महादेश में, लेटिन अमेरिकन क्षेत्रों में, अफ्रीकन क्षेत्रों में, और उस माध्यम से वो चाह रहा था कि उसका प्रभाव और अधिक से अधिक हो और विश्व राजनीति में उसकी डोमिनेंस बनी रहे। तो इस प्रकार की सोच को गिरको कहता है कि ये एब्सोल्यूट गेन की बात करता है। संपूर्ण रूप से वो कहता है कि एक राष्ट्र जब दूसरे राष्ट्र से सहयोग करता है तो यदि वह राष्ट्र का सामरिक और सुरक्षा अधिक से अधिक बढ़ता है तो उसको जोसेफ गिरको उसे कहता है एब्सोल्यूट गेन की तरफ से। लेकिन साथ ही साथ गिरको यह भी कहता है कि जो राष्ट्र इस तरह के सहयोग की बात करता है, जैसे उदाहरण के रूप में हम रूस और चीन के संबंध को देख लेते हैं कि प्रारंभ में जब 1962 की भारत और रूस की लड़ाई हुई थी, भारत और चीन की लड़ाई हुई थी, तो रूस चीन के पक्ष में कहीं न कहीं उसका झुकाव देखने को मिला। भले ही वो स्पष्ट रूप से चीन के पक्ष में नहीं आया था, लेकिन वह जब उसे पूछा, जब भारत ने सहयोग की मांग की, तो वह कहा कि भाई यह भी एक कम्युनिस्ट कंट्रीज है और मैं भी एक कम्युनिस्ट कंट्रीज हूँ और चीन हमारा भाई है और आप हमारे दोस्त थे, इसलिए हम भाई के साथ गद्दारी नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन जब 1969 के बाद हम देखते हैं कि चीन और रूस के बीच खुद ही बॉर्डर इश्यूज पर झगड़ा होता है और विवाद होता है, तो स्पष्ट यह देखने को मिलता है कि दोनों राष्ट्र कम्युनिस्ट राष्ट्र होते हुए भी, कम्युनिस्ट सुपरमेसी की बात करते हुए भी, हम देखते हैं कि दोनों की दिशाएं अलग अलग होती है। चीन वाशिंगटन के साथ सहयोग करता है और रूस जो है भारत के साथ सहयोग करता है। तो यहां पर जोसेफ गिरको ये कहने की कोशिश करता है कि एक राष्ट्र जब दूसरे राष्ट्र के साथ कोऑपरेटिव इंडेवर करता है, सहयोगात्मक रवैया करता है, तो यह भी देखता है कि क्या वह राष्ट्र उसके शक्ति से अधिक शक्ति तो गेन नहीं करता है। यहां पर नव उदारवादी जो सोच है उससे जोसेफ गिरको जो कंसेप्ट, जो नव यथार्थवादी जो जोसेफ गिरको का कंसेप्ट है, वो यहाँ डिफर करता है। वो ये डिफर इस रूप में करता है कि यहाँ कोऑपरेटिव इंडेवर जो है, सहयोगात्मक रवैया जो है सुरक्षा और संरक्षा के लिए, वह यह घोषित करता है कि नहीं, हम सहयोग तो करेंगे लेकिन सहयोग इस आधार पर करेंगे कि दूसरा राष्ट्र जो राष्ट्र सहयोग की दिशा में अग्रसर है उस राष्ट्र से अधिक शक्तिशाली ना हो। उसी को रॉबर्ट गिल्पिन ने अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अर्थव्यवस्था में के चिंतक के रूप में एक अलग तरह से व्याख्यापित करने की कोशिश करते हैं और उन्होंने विशेषकर इस रूप में व्याख्या करने की कोशिश की कि जब अमेरिका का डिक्लाइन होता है 1971 में स्टैग्फ्लेशन के कारण, और अमेरिका अपने आप को जो करेंसी डिनोमिनेशंस का जो एक तरीका था कि कौन सी करेंसी की क्या वैल्यू होगी, उससे अपने आप को वापस करता है, तो रॉबर्ट गिल्पिन कहता है कि इस प्रकार से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अर्थव्यवस्था में कहीं न कहीं एक प्रकार की अस्थिरता देखने को मिलती है। तो गिल्पिन कहता है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अर्थव्यवस्था में एक सुनिश्चित दिशा में कार्य करे, इसके लिए आवश्यक है कि विश्व राजनीति में कोई न कोई एक हेजमोन शक्ति होनी चाहिए, एक प्रभुत्वशाली शक्ति होनी चाहिए जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अर्थव्यवस्था को रेगुलेट करे। और यदि ऐसा नहीं होता है तो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अर्थव्यवस्था कहीं न कहीं अस्थिर होती है, जैसा कि उसने 1971 में कहा था। और 1990s में जब सोवियत यूनियन का विघटन होता है तो अमेरिका जब एक हेजमोन राष्ट्र के रूप में सामने आता है, तो रॉबर्ट गिल्पिन कहता है कि वाशिंगटन कंसेंसस के माध्यम से, चाहे भारत की आर्थिक अर्थव्यवस्था की बात हो या चाहे आप 90s के बाद हमने देखा था कि ईस्ट एशिया में जो क्राइसिस आई थी, इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस आई थी, या रशिया का जो इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस था, उसको संभालने में कहीं न कहीं अमेरिका की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रही, या अमेरिका या उसके सहयोगी राष्ट्रों की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रही। तो रॉबर्ट गिल्पिन ये कहता है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अर्थव्यवस्था को एक सुनिश्चित दिशा में कार्य करने के लिए आवश्यक है कि एक हेजमोन, एक प्रभुत्वशाली राष्ट्र जो है वह कहीं न कहीं विश्व राजनीति में अपना दबदबा बनाए रखे ताकि अर्थव्यवस्था एक सुनिश्चित रूप से काम कर सके। तो नव यथार्थवादी राजनीति में हमने ये देखा कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में गिरको और गिल्पिन के माध्यम से कि वो यह कहने की कोशिश करता है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय व्यवस्था में सहयोग तो होते हैं लेकिन सहयोग सापेक्षिक होता है, न कि पूर्णता में होता है। पूर्णता में तभी होता है जब वह राष्ट्र यह महसूस करता है कि सहयोग के माध्यम से उसका प्रभाव क्षेत्र अधिक से अधिक बढ़ता है। गिल्पिन यह कहने का प्रयास करता है कि अर्थव्यवस्था को स्थिर करने के लिए यह आवश्यक है कि कहीं न कहीं प्रभुत्वशाली राष्ट्र विश्व राजनीति में अपना दबदबा बनाए रखे ताकि विश्व राजनीति में सुचारू रूप से अर्थव्यवस्था कार्यरत रहे। Now we are going to discuss the third dimension about the offensive and defensive realism, and this is also very important approach of the Neo Realism because see, it has somewhat given the new dimensions of thinking within the Neo Realist perspectives. Conceptually split of Neo Realism within its paradigms. There are within the Neo Realist thinkings, what we have seen it, there is split within the Neo Realist thinking one is talking about the offensive, another is talking about the defensive, one is talking about the more and more power for the nation, another is talking about if they are satisfied with their security, there is no need to gain more and more power. The second point is talking about these two strands of thought agree on the basic assumptions of states. Desire for security is compelled by anarchic structure of the international system. And third is offensive and defensive realism have suggested a more nuanced version of realism that reflect in their thinking in understanding the nature of security threats presented by international system and a strategic of the state must pursue to survive and prosper in the system. Now, with these 3 points, what we try to here understand, within the Neo Realist perspective, that there were split within the paradigms. One is about the offensive, another is defensive. Second point they are talking about, because the world is anarchic, and within the anarchic structure, security is the most important dimension, and without security, we cannot survive in the world system. So the basic purpose of Neo-Realist thinking is, for every state, all other dimension is secondary, the security and survival is the priority dimension. Third point here they try to describe in this way, the nature of security threats presented by international system. Here once again they try to see in an anarchical situation where there is no political jurisdictions of any state, definitely every state is always compelled to secure its survival. And how they will secure their survival? By the self-help. And as long as they would not secure their survival, they would not exist in the world system. So they focus, the priority issue in the international politics for every state to secure more and more security for their states and pursue more and more national interest by accumulating more and more capability vis-a-vis other states. And that will lead to their prosperity in the world politics rather than thinking in the normative dimensions. So here, in these all the three issues, they try to explain it. In the anarchical situations where there is no central authority, there is no any political jurisdictions by any authority, security and survival is the prime concern for every state. And as long as the state would not secure their security and survival, it would be very difficult for any states to survive in the world politics. So if they want prosperity, if they want their influence, they have to secure first security एंड सर्वाइवल ऑफ द स्टेट्स। कहने का अर्थ यह हुआ कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में जब हम ऑफेंसिव एंड डिफेंसिव रिलीजन की बात करते हैं तो दोनों कहीं न कहीं सुरक्षा पर बहुत अधिक बल देता है। और विदिन नवयथार्थवाद में यह दो तरह की सोचों को कहीं न कहीं दिशा निर्देशित करता है। एक तो कहता है कि एक राज्य जो है, जो खासकर ऑफेंसिव रिलीजन कहता है कि वो अपनी शक्ति को जितना अधिक बढ़ाएगा वो उतना ही विश्व राजनीति में अपने आप को मजबूत स्थिति में पाएगा। दूसरा कहता है कि नहीं, शक्ति को उतना ही बढ़ाना चाहिए जहां तक अपनी सुरक्षा और सर्वाइवल सुनिश्चित हो सके, न कि यह आवश्यक नहीं है कि हम दूसरे राष्ट्र के स्थिरता को कहीं न कहीं अस्थिर करें। यह दो प्रकार की सोचें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में नवयथार्थवाद में देखने को मिलता है। दूसरी बात कहता है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में चूंकि विश्व राजनीतिक अराजक व्यवस्था के तहत कार्य करता है और इसमें किसी प्रकार का पॉलिटिकल जुरिडिक्शंस या वर्ल्ड गवर्नेंस काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन नहीं होती है, इसलिए यह महत्वपूर्ण चीज है कि आप अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में अपने राष्ट्र को किस प्रकार से सुरक्षित और सुरक्षित करते हैं। यह इसके लिए सबसे महत्वपूर्ण कदम यह है कि आप अपने आप को कैसे सिक्योर करते हैं दूसरे राष्ट्र से। यदि ऐसा नहीं करते हैं तो कहीं न कहीं आप अपने राष्ट्र के राष्ट्रीय हित को या क्षेत्रीय अखंडता को कहीं न कहीं आप संकट में डाल रहे हैं। इसी आधार पर ये दोनों सोच जो है आगे बढ़ता है और इसी पर इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में इस दोनों सिद्धांत का विकास हुआ। डिफेंसिविस्ट लाइक स्टीफन एवरा, स्टीफन वाल्ट, जैक स्नाइडर hold that states attain security by maintaining their positions within the system. So their tendency is towards achieving an appropriate amount of power in balance with other states. More power lead to less security. Here the defensive realists like Stephen Walt, Jack Snyder, Stephen Evora, they try to say that maintaining their position within the system that is the more important rather than to tendency towards achieving an appropriate amount of power in balance with other states. Means they try to say this, it's not important to you increase your more and more power, because if you accumulate more and power, it will lead to some kind of insecurity to your neighboring states. Just to accumulate your power in such a level where you can have a balance of power kind of things, that other states would not try to counter your positions in the world politics, and somewhere there will be a stability in the world politics. For example, we can understand in the 1971 war of the Indo-Pakistans, what happened? India signed a agreement with the USSR, a friendship cooperation treaties, and somewhere the Chinese started supporting to the Pakistan, and Islamabad also started supporting the Pakistan, and they signed an indirect agreement, Islamabad, Peking, and Washington axis. And if India would not have signed a treaty with the Soviet Union, the result of the war would be different. But because there was a balance of power kind of thinking, because one side when the China started threatening India and Washington started sending its navy troops in the way of Bengal, the Soviet Union also started countering the power of America and the China, and they snubbed the Chinese, and they also threatened the Americans if they would intervene in the Indo-Pakistan war, he would also intervene. So there was a balance of power kind of thing. So here they try to say, defensive realist, you see, you just try to only maintain the power within the international system, so other can you can counter the capability of other states. कहने का अर्थ यह हुआ कि यहाँ जो डिफेंसिव रियलिस्ट है ये कहने की कोशिश करता है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में आप अपने राष्ट्र की जो राष्ट्रीय हित है या जो शक्ति है उसको इतना मजबूत करके रखें, या एक शक्ति संतुलन के सिद्धांत को वहां तक बनाए रखें जिससे कोई दूसरा राष्ट्र आप पर यदि आक्रमण करता है तो आप अपने आप को डिफेंड कर सके। यदि आप अन्यथा अपनी शक्ति को बढ़ाते जा रहे हैं तो इससे क्या होगा कि दूसरे राष्ट्र में असुरक्षा पैदा होगा और कहीं न कहीं अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में एक अस्थिरता पैदा होगी। The next slide is defensive realists suggest that our assumptions of relation with other states depend on whether they are friends or enemies. And second point they are telling today, Robert Jarvis and Snyder claim that most leaders understand that the cost of war clearly outweighs the benefits. Use of military forces is rejected as a strategy in the age of complex interdependence of globalization. They are trying to tell us, see, defensive realists, we see, in the international relations, it's very important. You have to understand, you see, every state you cannot understand as an enemy. It depends on how you are trying to understand whether these states are your enemy or your friend. Like American-European Union relations. Whenever there is a problem with America and European Union, the relations between America and Europe are so cordial that America would always try to resolve the problem through the dialogue. But whenever there was a problem between America and China, America always tried to sort out the problem with the power. Like in the recent example, you can see the problem with the North Korea and the America. America always tried to pressurize the China to contain the North Korea, otherwise it would be a devastating effect for the North Korea. So that they here defensively say, see, it depends on whether the other party is your friends or enemies. The second point they are telling, see, in the complex interdependence era and in the era of the globalizations, now the utility of the war is no more relevant. Now see, after the 90s, the economic issues became a priority. Before the 90s, the ideological and the military issues was the priority. Every state's strength was understood in the term of the military powers. But now, every state interact with other states on the basis of their economic power. So they are also trying to tell us, you see, the economic issues got a priority rather than the military issue. But definitely that military is a priority. But it depends on whether your relations with other states in what kind of situations, that depends, and that depends on the structure of the international relations. Therefore, they are telling that defensive realists are often confused with the new liberals. However, there is a little difference between defensive and offensive realists when they are dealing with expansionary or traditional enemies. Defensive realists are more optimistic than our offensive realists. However, they are less optimistic than new liberals. Here they are trying to tell us, you see, one should not confuse with the new liberals and the new defensive realists, because new liberals always talking about, you see, about absolute gains, but defensive realists talking also about the relative gains. And the second is, whenever they have to deal with the traditional levies, whether it's a defensive or offensive, they deal with the might. And the third point they try to tell us, you see, The defensive realists are more optimistic. They want world should be more stable rather than unstable. But offensive realists always try to maximize their power in the world system. कहने का अर्थ हुआ कि रक्षात्मक डिफेंसिव और ऑफेंसिव रियलिस्ट में यह देखने को मिला कि जब भी किसी शत्रु राष्ट्र के साथ संबंधों को निर्धारित करने की बात होती है तो हम देखते हैं कि दोनों की सोच बिल्कुल एक ही होता है, जहां वो अपनी शक्ति के आधार पर शत्रु राष्ट्र को मर्यादित करने की कोशिश करता है। दूसरी तरफ डिफेंसिव रियलिस्ट और न्यू लिबरल में हम ये भी अंतर करते हैं कि डिफेंसिव रियलिस्ट जो है अधिक से अधिक बल देता है एब्सोल्यूट रिलेटिव गेन पर, लेकिन न्यू लिबरल केवल एब्सोल्यूट गेन की बात करता है। वही हम देखते हैं कि डिफेंसिव रियलिस्ट जो है आशावादी है, वही ऑफेंसिव रियलिस्ट जो है थोड़ा निराशावादी सोच के साथ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति को आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश करता है।
Dear friends, in this part of the lecture Neo Realism, we have attempted to understand Greco and Gilpin's Neo Realism as well as offensive defensive realism of Mearsheimer and Robert Jarvis. On that note, we are going to take a break, and after the break, we will be resuming with the lecture. Thank you for watching. Hello friends, welcome to CEC live lectures. Dear friends, in this lecture on Neo Realism, so far we have done Greco and Gilpin's Neo Realism and offensive defensive realism of Jarvis. In this part of the lecture, we will continue with our discussion on offensive defensive realism of John Mearsheimer. Along with that, we will also discuss about common assumption of Neo Realism as well as its criticisms. To discuss this topic, we have with us our subject expert Dr. Sujit Thakur. And let's welcome Dr. Thakur and ask him to resume the lecture. Welcome, sir.
Offensive realism basically appeared to accept most of Wall's ideas and good portions of the assumptions of traditional realism. Here, when we say that it's appeared to accept most of the traditional realism, it's meaning that they are also trying to tell us that state is still a centric power, and whenever you have to deal with the other state in the anarchical situations, you must understand how to counter the other state through their resources, and they can counter their other states only through their capability rather than only on the basis of their power, because capability depends, the power depends on the relative terms rather than on the basis of what the other states would have. The second point is here trying to say John Mearsheimer, an offensive realist, assert security is so elusive in self-help system that the states are driven to attain as much power as possible to become the global or at least regional hegemon. Now see, here we have to understand, John Mearsheimer trying to tell us, in the self-help system, security is so elusive that as long as you cannot attain yourself as a regional power, your security is always on the stakes. So right now, for the example, you can understand, India is also trying to become a global player, but China is somewhere countering it. China is trying to encircle it. China is trying to confine India within the South Asian regions. China's interest lies, if India would be only a regional player, that is only in the South Asian regions, not in the Asian regions, that would be more beneficial for the Chinese national interest. But India wanted to play a greater role in the Asian politics. So the India's policy of Act East Asia, or India's involvement in the South China Sea, or India's cooperation with the China and the ASEAN nations, China's more defensive cooperative partners with the America, that shows that India also wanted to have a more secure position in the world politics, and they want to also strengthen their position vis-a-vis China. So in the offensive risk, they try to say, in the self-help system, security is so elusive that every state wants to secure their positions more and more through raising its capability and trying to either it's a regional hegemon or to become a global player. America is trying to assert its power at the world level. China is trying to counter the American power at the global level. India is also trying to assert its power at the regional level. They also want to have a some certain kind of positioning in the Asia level. So it seems that the offensive list trying to tell us, in the world politics, it's very important that every state, if they want to secure its positions, they have to secure its position through having such kind of security advantage, security capabilities, where they secure at least a regional hegemony, if not the global hegemony. He suggests that leaders of countries should pursue security policies that weaken their potential enemies and increase their power relative to all others. Second, therefore, he suggests relative power is more important for state than absolute power. Approval for revisionist state to offensive realist in international relations is a prisoner's dilemma game. He said, he suggests the leaders to follow such kind of policies which would weaken their potential enemies and increase their power vis-a-vis other states. And second, they say relative power is more important than the state and than absolute power. And they also say a state would always try to expand its positions. And they say, the state's position is just like a prisoner dilemma again, where one state is not secure about other states, and it's just a zero-sum kind of game. Here, through example, we can understand that, China trying to encircle the India and trying to weaken through making the in the Gwadar airport, India-Pakistan, India-China economic corridor, then intruding in the Nepal by making good roads and giving this kind of proposals to have a tunnel within the Himalayan, so there will be a direct linkage with the China and Nepal. So he tried to anyhow counter the India. And on the other side, India is also trying to counter the China through making a good relations with the Iran, making a good relations with the Japan, making good relations with the South Korea, making good relations with the ASEAN countries. So here the John Markheim was trying to tell us, the policies should be pursued by states where one state tried to weaken the other state through its policy rather than become content with the other state. So he focused more on the relative powers rather than the absolute powers, because absolute power talking about if you are content with your positions, there is no need to destabilize the international structure. So he talked about the divisionist state, means there is expansionist state. And see the policy of China. China is always trying to disturb the neighboring countries. See the Doklam issues. This is the expansionist nature of the China. On all the other neighboring states, China always have disputes either with the Japan, either with the Taiwan, either with the other countries of the ASEAN. They always try to having experienced kind of policy and it being countered by the other states. So they are trying to tell us, as the offensive is trying to tell us, if you want to secure your position in the elusive system of the self-help, you have to must follow the explicit policy rather than the content policy. कहने का अर्थ ये हुआ कि जॉन मरखाइमर ये करने का प्रयास करते हैं कि यदि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में आप अपने आप को एक समृद्ध राष्ट्र के रूप में, शक्तिशाली राष्ट्र के रूप में स्थापित करने का प्रयास करते हैं या विश्व में एक प्रतिष्ठित भूमिका निर्वाह करने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो आपको इस प्रकार की रणनीति अपनानी चाहिए जिसमें कि आपका जो एनिमी राष्ट्र है वो कमजोर हो और आप शक्तिशाली हो, और साथ ही साथ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्ट्रक्चर को बदलने का भी आपको कोशिश करते रहना चाहिए, जैसा कि अभी चाइना कर रहा है। चाहे डोकलाम का मुद्दा हो, चाहे जापान के साथ उसके संबंध हो, चाहे दक्षिण वियतनाम के साथ संबंध हो, चीन हमेशा कहीं न कहीं एक एक्सपेंशनिस्ट पॉलिसी अपनाने की कोशिश करता है, जिसके माध्यम से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में कुछ न कुछ हलचल होती रहती है और अमेरिका को लगता है कि उसकी शक्ति और सत्ता को चुनौती दी जा रही है और कहीं न कहीं नॉर्थ कोरिया के माध्यम से चुनौती दे भी रहा है। तो जॉन मरखाइमर ये कहने की कोशिश कर रहा है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में यदि आप एक सफल राष्ट्र के रूप में स्थापित होना चाहते हैं या एक ग्लोबल प्लेयर के रूप में स्थापित होना चाह रहे हैं, तो आपको एक डिविजनिस्ट स्टेट या एक्सपेंशनिस्ट स्टेट की भूमिका अपनानी होगी। Now we are going to discuss about the common assumptions of the neoliberalism and common assumptions of neoliberalism. Here we have divided the three basic issues: neoliberalism and survival, neoliberalism and self-help, and neoliberalism and statism. And on these all three basic premises, we are going to discuss about the common assumptions of the Neo Realism. The first common assumptions of the Neo Realism is Neo Realists dominate the world of security studies. The second is it mainly concerned with the issue of survival. The most critical problem presented by anarchy is survival. According to Walls, beyond survival motives, the aim of the state may be endlessly varied. Defensive realists like Walls and Greco argue that states have security as their principal interest and therefore only seek the requisite amount of power to ensure their own survival. See, here when we talk about the Neo Realism and survival, the first point is, see, the Neo Realists focus more on the security studies and they are made concerned how to secure in the world politics. The second, they are trying to say, see, the issue of survival is the most priority issue, the primary issue, the first objective of any nation is to survive in the world politics. And especially in the anarchical state, world structures, if you would not secure your positions, how you would ensure your positioning in the world politics. So all other motives, all other objectives are the secondary and the survival is the primary objectives. Here Walls say, you see, survival motive is the primary, and if you want to say we want to economically powerful, if you want to dominate culturally in the world politics, you want to have a better relations with the world politics, we want to strengthen international organizations, there are varied kind of international interest, and so he says, but its all interest would only fulfill when you have to fulfill the primary objective where you secure your state's integrity and sovereignty, and that sovereignty integrity would only fulfill when your state would survive in the anarchical situation of the world politics where you have to defend yourself. Walls and Greco also argue that states have security as their principal interest and therefore only seek the requisite amount of power to ensure their own survival. They say, see, the Walls, the defensivists like Walls and Greco, they say, see, every states want to secure requisite amount of power so so they can survive in the anarchical structure of the world politics. If they cannot have a requisite amount of the power, definitely the other state would threaten its national interest, other state would threaten its national integrity. So they talked about, you see, it's very important for every state to have a requisite amount of the power to ensure. The next point is, offensivists like John Mersheimer argue that ultimate goal of all states is to achieve a hegemonic position in the international system. And the next is, the for offensive realists, states always desire to more power, while defensive realists consider states seek the requisite amount of power to ensure their own survival. Now again, the offensive realists like John Mersheimer say, you see, the ultimate goal of all states is what? To have a hegemonic positions in the world politics. Like, see, the struggle between India and China, struggle between India and America. Why they are struggling? Why they are countering each other? Because America is considering that the China is countering its hegemonic stature in the world politics. India is considering as long as they cannot counter the China, they would not establish its position in the Asian regions, and they would not be a bigger player in the world politics. So there is a struggle. So Mersheimer says, see, ultimate goal of the state is what? To establish its hegemony in the world politics. Whenever you see the India and Pakistan struggle in the South Asian region, Pakistan tried to dominate in the South Asian region, but India always countered it, because India's geographical structures as well as the economic and political structure is so heavily favored the Indian subcontinent, where Pakistan would not match with India. But vis-a-vis China is more dominating in the Asian regions than in comparative with the India, either its economic term or the military term. Equally in the world politics, we see America is having a more military and technological power than the China. Definitely economically, China is now emerging as one of the second largest economic power in the world. But what the Mersheimer is trying to tell us, you see, every state's ultimate goal is to secure its hegemonic position in the world politics. And therefore, international politics, like all politics, struggle for the power. And here Mersheimer say, if the ultimate goal is to establish your hegemony in the world politics, then why you are contain yourself? Then you must have an expansionist, revisionist kind of policy rather than containing yourself. Here, the offensive realist states always desire to more power, while defensive realists consider states seek the requisite amount of power to ensure their own survival. There is a differences between the offensive realist. One is saying a requisite amount of power to counter the revisionist state. Others say, to restructure the world politics, that is more important. कहने का अर्थ हुआ कि ऑफेंसिव एंड डिफेंसिव रियलिस्ट यहाँ पर ये कहता है कि जॉन मर्कावर ये करने का प्रयास करता है कि जब अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में हर राष्ट्र की ये इच्छा होती है कि वो विश्व में एक सर्वशक्तिशाली राष्ट्र के रूप में स्थापित हो, तो फिर क्यों वो कंटेनमेंट काइंड ऑफ पॉलिसी को आगे बढ़ाएगा। जब उदाहरण के तौर पर वो कहता है कि चीन और अमेरिका के बीच संघर्ष किस बात को लेकर है। चीन अपनी सत्ता को विश्व में स्थापित करना चाहता है, अमेरिका एक प्रकार से हेजेमन राष्ट्र 90s के बाद। चीन और इंडिया का यहाँ सत्ता संघर्ष किस बात को लेकर है? इस बात को लेकर है कि इंडिया चाहता है कि हम अपनी सत्ता को स्थापित करें एशिया में, जबकि चीन उसको काउंटर करता है। भारत और पाकिस्तान की समस्या क्या है? भारत दक्षिण एशिया में एक प्रभुत्व राष्ट्र के रूप में स्थापित है, जबकि पाकिस्तान अपनी सत्ता स्थापित करना चाहता है। तो कहता है कि जब अल्टीमेटली हर राज्य का यही गोल है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में अपनी पहचान एक हेजेमन राष्ट्र के रूप में स्थापित करे, तो फिर एक कंटेनमेंट पॉलिसी या एक रिक्विजिट अमाउंट ऑफ जो डिफेंसिव रेजिस्ट कहता है कि हमें उतनी ही शक्ति या उतना ही सत्ता ग्रैब करना चाहिए जिससे कि हम एक बैलेंस ऑफ पावर को स्थापित किए रखें। ये पॉलिसी बहुत उचित नहीं है। ऑफेंसिव रेजिस्ट कहता है कि आप अपनी सत्ता को, अपनी शक्ति को बढ़ाते चलिए और यदि मौका मिले तो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्ट्रक्चर को आप परिवर्तित करने के लिए भी कार्य कर सकते हैं। New realism and self-help. The second, the common assumptions, what we describe, the new realism and self-help. Here they say that states are self-interested oriented, and an anarchic and competitive system pushes them to favor self-help over cooperative behavior. Second point, they say in international politics, the structure of the system does not permit friendship, trust, and honor, only a perennial condition of uncertainty generated by the absence of global government. And third point, they try to say states see all other states as a potential enemies and threats to their national security. This distrust and fear creates a security dilemma. Very clearly, he says that this self-help is very important here. They say that see, every states are self-interest oriented, and in the anarchic competitive systems, it pushes them state to favor self-help over cooperative behavior. They say that see, in the international politics, every states are very much self-oriented, and such kind of anarchic and competitive systems, where even if the states want to have a cooperative behavior, they cannot, because they have to secure their survival in the political situation where there is no authority, there is no guarantee of the security, there is no guarantee of their survival. So it's very important. The structure is so that there are constants. Even if the state want to have a cooperative behavior, they cannot, because the structure compels them to mistrust, distrust, and act in such a way where they first secure their security, then they think about in other things. So here, the Neo Realism try to say it. See, the structure of the international system does not permit any kind of friendship, trust, and honor. Only a perennial condition of uncertainty generated by the absence of global government. Because in national government, you have a security, you have a political jurisdictions, you have a legislative, you have a judiciary, you have a police, everything. But in international system, it's not exist. The structure is completely anarchic. In the anarchical system, the self-help can only help you. So when India tested a nuclear weapons, a prominent politician said, see, if other would have all kind of nuclear arms and arsenals, then why not India would have? Why India would depend on others? Because every state is sovereign state. Every state would have to defend itself. Because see, in the 1971, no state would come to support the Pakistan, even if the America and China was giving all kind of indirect help to the Pakistan. But when the crunch situation came, it was India and Pakistan who had to defend itself. Like equally, the same thing happened in the India and China war. When the crunch situation came, it was the India and China who had to defend itself. So they say, see, it's very important. See, in international relations, there is no friends, and one should secure its security first, then to think about other issues. Third point is to see all states as a potential enemies. The structure is so where you cannot trust who is friend and who is your enemies. In international relations, the friends and enemies always have been changing. Before the 90s, or you see, we have a very pessimistic perceptions about America, but now we have been developing a very good relations with America. Why? Because international relations structures, constants, made this kind of situations where we think sometimes they are friends and sometimes think they are enemies. Like in the 50s, India and China was a good friend, but after 60s, India and China relations deteriorated, and we consider right now China is one of the biggest enemy for the India's national interest. So the self-help is the very important here. Walls argue that international politics is not unique because of the regulatory of war and conflict. Since this is familiar in domestic politics, the key difference between the domestic and international orders lies in their structure. Security can therefore only realize through self-help. In hierarchic structure, self is necessary the principle of actions. Walls argue that balance of power results irrespective of intention of any particular state. Neoliberalists do not stop cooperation between states, particularly in the form of strategic alliance on the whole. Self-help system makes the cooperation of parties difficult. Again, the Walls say, see, international politics is not unique because there is a regulatory of war. Because war and conflict is, you can also see in the domestic politics. But in domestic politics, there is a state who has to defend yourself. But international system, no one is to defend you. You have to defend yourself. So there is only one situation there, the self-help, that can defend yourself. So here Walls say, see, international politics is not unique because there is always possibility of war and conflict. War and conflict is always exist in the domestic politics. But in the domestic politics, the state is to defend the individuals. The state is there to defend the person. But here, it's not the situations where the state has to defend. Here only state has to defend itself. So they are telling in the international politics, the cooperation is possible, but cooperation is only possible when there is a relative gains for the state. But whenever the state thinks there is some kind of favor for the other states, the cooperation is not possible. The last point, what the convergence of Neo Realism and strategism. Here again they say states are the main actors in international systems. These states are rationally utility maximizers. In the calculus, states seek power and calculate interest in terms of power, material capability. Was tried to overcome the problem of shifting the focus from power and capabilities. Here, and the second point they're trying, for neurist, power is more than the accumulation of military resources, ability to use the power to coerce and control other states. Was another neurist see power, combined capability of states. Here they try to say, see, states are the main actor in international politics. They are saying, see, whenever, whether you have to defend yourself in the anarchical situation, who will defend yourself? The state can defend, the state will protect its individuals. So the survival and security will be ensured by the state. So the state is the main actor. The state will be the actor who will provide all kind of alliances, who provide all kind of security. So here they try to say, see, the state's power depends on the resources. And Walls here they say resources is not based on what kind of size, what kind of location, what kind of military strength. It is a relative concept, and it depends on what kind of capability you have. Like for the example, see the Doklam. Bhutan was a very small state, but because India defended the Doklam, so Bhutan became stronger. Equally, the North Korea, if you compare the North Korea with the America, North Korea is nowhere existing, but it is getting support indirectly from the China and the Russia. So somewhere they are telling, you see, the world structure is more important, and structures decide what kind of capability one state has with alliancing with other states. Walls notes, because future is always uncertain, states are more concerned about relative gains than absolute gains. Here again the same point they are trying to see, because every state is uncertain about their future, so they are more concerned about if they are going for the cooperative endeavors, whether they are getting more benefit or whether they are losing its national interest. And nature of state is essentially conflictual. States will inevitably find themselves at odds with one another as the interest and goals overlap, and this leads to conflict. Here Gilpin and Randall Swell are also trying the nature of state is always conflictual, and that's what the traditional realists trying to say it. And they say states inevitably find themselves at odds with one another as the interest and goals overlap, and this leads to conflict. Because see, every time, most of the time, we find there is a differences between the states and interest overlapping with each other, and that time the state has to secure its positions only through pursuing its national interest through its capability and power. Now, we are going to discuss about the criticism. There are number of criticism on the Neo Realism. The NTU Linklaters has pointed out a major problem with vast unit structure relationship is that it leaves little or no room for systematic change induced by units themselves. And second, say, was also denies that greater levels of economic interdependency among states pose a threat to the condition of anarchy, despite Rosencrantz claimed that trading state is displacing the military states in contemporary world. There are 2 points here. NTU Linklater, one of the critical theorists, they try to say it. See, Walls have overemphasized on the unit structure, and he completely ignored the unit level explanations, because see, they say many times the state domestic politics also compel the state to act in certain kind of policy, like withdrawal of the British force from the Iraqi war. It was the domestic compulsion. The British citizens started protesting against the British government, and they demanding to withdrawal of the British forces from the Iraq war. Equally, the interventions of the Soviet military forces in the Afghanistan, and later on it was not supported by the Russian people. So they say, see, you cannot only say that the structural constraints of the international politics would decide everything on the world politics. Like even if any state would, if any leaders would go for signing an agreement on the issue of the Kashmir, it's the domestic structure, domestic compulsion of Indian masses that would compel the state to not act in such a policy which would hamper the interest of the state. So, and to let us say that there was overemphasis on the structures and they ignored the unit level explanations. Walls also somewhere ignored the economic interdependence, or there are things like see the example of India and China. Now India and China has been developing a very cordial relations at the economic level, and many times there was a situations where we saw that now the war is inevitable, but we saw that both the countries withdraw itself. Why they withdraw itself? Because they know that their interests are lying, and if they would go for the war, it would hamper somewhere the interest of both the countries. The third point was also discounts the rationalist view that though it is anarchic in structure, the international system is also normatively regulated. See, the liberal realists like Martin White, Hadley Bull, they try to say that at the international level there is a regime that somewhere regulate the international politics, but does not agree with these things. They say that the normative structures would not regulate the world politics. The world politics would regulate on the basis of structural constraints, on the basis of capability and power. So here there is another criticism. The epistemological critique of Neo Realism by Ashley and Cox exposes the conservative ideology which underwrites Walls' theoretical approach. They say, see, like all other theories, Walls' theory is also a problem-solving theory. They don't want to give the alternatives in the world politics. They don't want to give the even spectrum of politics of the world politics, how to sort out the problems of the world politics. They are just trying to sort out the problem through the war, through the power, through the capabilities, through the international structures, and they are trying to say, see, it's international structures that somewhere trying to dictate the world politics rather than that they are giving certain kind of सॉल्यूशन टू द वर्ल्ड। यहाँ कहने का अर्थ ये हुआ कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय राजनीति में 5 प्रकार का हमने देखा कि आलोचनाएं की गई है। एक तो एंड्रू लिंकलेटर ने कहा कि राज्य स्तर की जो रणनीति है उसको वाल्स बिल्कुल इग्नोर करता है और स्ट्रक्चर लेवल पर संरचनात्मक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर की बात ज़्यादा करता है, जबकि ऐसा नहीं है। राज्य स्तर पर भी राजनीति जो है कई बार जो है लीडरशिप को बाध्य करता है कि वो इस सर्टेन निर्णय ले, जैसे कि हमने वियतनाम वार में देखा था, या इराक में ब्रिटिश आर्मी के फोर्सेस को देखा था, या कश्मीर के सिचुएशन में भारत की रणनीति को देखा है। फिर वाल्स का जो दूसरा पॉइंट है वो यह भी कि आर्थिक स्तर पर जो इंटरडिपेंडेंस बढ़ते जा रहा है, ग्लोबलाइजेशन के कारण जो एक राष्ट्र दूसरे राष्ट्र के साथ सहयोग कर रहे हैं, जैसे कि अमेरिका और चीन का रिलेशन को देख लीजिए कि चीन अमेरिका के हेजेमोनिक स्टेटस को काउंटर कर रहा है, लेकिन फिर भी अमेरिका जो है मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन स्टेटस चीन को दिए हुए, लेकिन इंडिया को नहीं दिए हुए है। तो कहता है कि कॉम्प्लेक्स इंटरडिपेंडेंस थ्योरी को भी कहीं ना कहीं वाल्स इग्नोर करता है। वहीं हडली बोल्ड और मार्टिन विट की जो बात थी, जो लिबरल रियलिस्ट माने जाते हैं, इंटरनेशनल सोसाइटी अप्रोच के माने जाते हैं, जो कहता है कि कहीं ना कहीं नॉर्मेटिव बिहेवियर जो भी है, जो मूल्यात्मक सोच भी जो है, रीजिम की जो बात करता है, जैसे WTO जैसे संस्था की बात करता है, IMF की बात करता है, वर्ल्ड बैंक की बात करता है, कहता है कि वाज उसको मान्यता बिल्कुल ही नहीं देता, उसको इग्नोर करता है। वहीं रॉबर्ट कॉक्स कहता है कि यह अन्य थ्योरी की तरह एक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग थ्योरी ही है, जस्ट 2 मिनट, प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग थ्योरी है और कोई एक अल्टरनेट नहीं देता। The conclusion is the strength of the realist tradition in its capacity to argue from necessity. It seeks to describe reality, solve problems, understand the continuity of world politics. To accomplish this task, it invokes time to time a philosophical traditions by eminent thinkers. Vast Neo-Realism is one of it. It established realist thinking in 90s after the challenges it faced from globalist and interdependence theories. Neo-Realist provides a convincing amount of why the foreign policies of nation states are so familiar. Despite their very diverse internal nature, it also provides a more sophisticated explanations of the persistence of international system. However, it overstates the autonomous states, underestimates the potential for states to transform the international system, and exaggerated the importance of a structure.
Dear friends, we hope that in this lecture you were able to understand the concept of neorealism. In this lecture, we have attempted to understand not only Greco and Gilpin's neorealism, we have also attempted to understand Mearsheimer and Jarvis' theory of offensive-defensive realism. We have also looked at common assumptions of neorealism as well as the criticisms of neorealism. On that note, we want to thank Dr. Sujit Thakur for coming here and delivering this wonderful lecture. And thank you, dear friends, for watching our lecture. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.